What's going on? Happy Friday, everybody. What's up? Bodie, what's up, man? How we doing? Yo. Good to see you. Drop your college recruiting questions down below. Going to get to as many of them on this beautiful Friday as we can. Great to see all of you. Drop your college recruiting questions down below. Going to get to as many of them as possible. Brooks, what's up, man? Great to see you. Great to see you. It's beautiful here. We got some clouds today, finally. I love the sun. Where I live, we get a lot of sun, but it's a little bit too much for me. So I'm happy. I'm happy today. We got a little bit of a break. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. How can I help you get more scholarship offers? What questions do you have down below? As usual, going to get to as many of them as we can. Going to build some momentum into the weekend. It's going to be a great time. What you got? What you got? What year should barbell players be contacting colleges? So again, with contacting schools, okay, we usually say freshman year, you should start flexing the muscle. Freshman year, you should start the process of like sending a couple emails, making a couple videos, posting a little on social media, little things like that, okay? Sophomore year is where you're going to start building the foundation, because by the end of sophomore year, you should be full ramp. You should be absolutely getting after it. Lots of emails, DMs, posting content, all those great things, okay? So freshman year is when I would say, hey, you're not going to go send to 100 schools, but you should be sending a few. Like you should be sending a little bit, right? And so that's what I would say. By sophomore year, you should really start to be adding that up. By the end of sophomore year, you should be off to the races. There should be quite a bit. When's the best time to take the SAT with a June 15th communication date? So this is a good question. The thing about the SAT is that some schools care about it more than others. Not every school cares about the SAT. And so what I would say is it's not a bad idea to get like a baseline score just so you know where you're at. Now, the reality is that the first time you take the SAT, it's probably not going to be your best score. Maybe it's good enough, but it's probably not going to be your best score. But really what that does is it tells you how much more work you need to do to get better on your SAT, right? If you get a really poor score, then it's a good thing that you took it early, because you have time to build that up and get better at taking it. And then that's going to help you in the future. But if you get a great score your first time around, then you know, okay, cool. Like maybe this isn't going to be the constraint for me. I'm actually, going to be able to focus on other stuff instead. So I'm not too concerned about like the specific date that you take it, but I do think that it's a good idea to take one early just to get a baseline of where you're at. Because historically, people have been way off. They think that they're going to score one score and they're usually way off. But again, not all schools take the SAT, care about the SAT. It depends. Now, the higher academic the school is, the more they're going to care about it. So the story I think I've told about this before is there's a kid who had the grades to get into Air Force. Air Force coaches really wanted him, but he didn't have the SAT that he needed. So they said, hey, we're going to wait for you to take it one more time. He took it one more time, didn't get the SAT score that he needed. And they said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. And then they moved on and they started recruiting somebody else. So the SAT score does matter. But again, it'll matter more for higher level academic schools than lower ones. How hard is it to be a walk-on for D1 for football compared to JUCO, that is? Listen, it's still hard. I think people get this idea that as a walk-on, they'll just take anybody, Like, because you're not getting any scholarship money, they'll just take anybody. That's not true. Even as walk-ons, they're taking players that they think will end up being on the roster on scholarship. That's who they're taking. So it's still highly competitive to get to a D1 as a walk-on. So in this case, significantly easier to get to JUCO than a Division I walk-on spot. Significantly easier. It's really not even close. Okay. Again, D1 walk-on spots, they're not handing them out like candy. You still have to earn that spot. The same thing goes, I get this question a lot, which is, hey, Jack, our family has a little bit of money. We don't necessarily need a scholarship. Of course, it'd be nice, but we don't necessarily need one. And so should we tell coaches that, right? Should we tell coaches that? The thing is that a coach is not going to recruit you simply because you don't need scholarship money. They're not going to. They're still recruiting really good players. Now, at the end of the process, if there are two players that they think are on equal level athletically, equal level academically, everything is the same about these two players. One of them doesn't need scholarship money and the other one does, then they'll probably take the one that doesn't need scholarship money. That's probably how that will go. Okay. But the point is that they're not just going to take you and give it to you like candy because you don't need a scholarship or because it's a walk-on spot. That's not how that works. It's still incredibly competitive. And so in this case, definitely easier to go JUCO than to go D1 as a walk-on for sure. How to handle a major injury in the middle of junior year girls soccer. It depends. How long is she out for from now? Because if she's out for another 12 months, that's a very different strategy than if she's out for 3 months, right? Those are going to be two different things. So it depends on how long you're out for. The one thing I will say is whether you're like, no matter how bad the injury is, you should continue to work toward building relationships with schools. You should continue to do that. Because the reality is that if you don't, you're going to end up way behind because you're going to be starting from scratch. And so it's really important that even if you're injured, you are still making progress in the process. I think of a football family. Remember, the dad was asking us, he's like, is now a good time to start? Because my kid is hurt, got hurt second game of the year, so we don't even really have a lot of video. And I told him, and I said, listen, we need to start now and use whatever you have because he's going to be out for 5 months. We can't just not do anything for 5 months. And he was able to start some conversations with coaches. No, you're not going to get offers when you're hurt like that because they want to see you play. But he was able to start conversations with coaches. And when he became healthy and he came back, guess what happened? He wasn't starting from scratch. He already had schools that were interested, that were following him, talking to him, and then they were ready to watch him play when he was healthy. And so even if you're hurt, you still have to continue to pursue coaches. And of course, it's more difficult when you're injured than not. Injuries are one of the trickiest parts of the recruiting process, but it's a huge mistake to stop actively pursuing coaches just because you're hurt. When should basketball players start contacting colleges? Same answer as the one before, which is you should be flexing the muscle freshman year. By sophomore year, you're building the foundation and starting to send more. By the end of sophomore year into junior year, you're full go. You should be doing a lot of that. Thank you. You're welcome. How do I get into a 7-on-7 league for exposure? There are a lot of 7-on-7 leagues that really just takes a couple phone calls. There are lots of 7-on-7 teams that you can get to, probably in your area, more in some areas than others, depends on where you live in the US. But if you a quick Google search and a couple phone calls, and you'll have somewhere to play for 7-on-7. Is some contact better than no contact? My son, 26 baseball, been emailing schools since fall of 25. Till now, some schools reply saying, thank you for the progress report. Are they being polite or is there some interest there? Some contact is always better than no contact. Always. The thing is, some coaches will not give you contact if they're not interested. Now, take it with a grain of salt because when you start talking about camp invites, that's a different story. But if you're sending follow-ups and a coach says, thanks for the video, keep me posted, something like that, they're interested. They're not saying that kind of thing because they're not interested. So 100%, some contact is definitely better than no contact in basically every situation. And they're not just being polite. You will find that college coaches are usually not polite. Like it's not in their, they're not supposed to be. That's not like, not supposed to be. Yeah, they should be polite, but like they are there to recruit players. Okay. And so, no, if they're saying, hey, thanks for the report, like they want you to continue sending the report. They like that. They want that. So some interest, some contact is always better than none. Let's see. When to stop emailing coaches other than when they tell you you're not on their board. We'll typically send 3 and then we shut it down after that, but we shut it down for a period of time and then we return back to it. So you can send, this is the one thing I'll stress to you guys. you can send as many as you want. Like if a coach hasn't responded, you don't really have any cause to believe that they're not interested yet, as crazy as that sounds. Like I've seen kids pound coaches 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times. And the 12th time is when the coach responds, hey, I'm interested, and gives the kid an offer. Like I've seen that happen before. It's really just a lot of work though, right? And so for top schools that you're really interested in, go for it. Why not? Why not? Go for it. And so I would say if you're up for it, send as many as you possibly can. D3 versus D1 PWO. I've made a couple videos about this, and they usually do pretty well. We get this question quite a bit. The answer is that I'm going to sit on the fence for a second. It depends, right? It depends on the family. Not every family, the right decision is going to be that way. And so for some families, better to go D3. For some families, better to go D1 PWO. It depends on the goals of the family. If your goal is to play, then D3 is the answer, right? Like if your kid's like, listen, I would rather play at a D3 than sit the bench at a D1. All right, then D3 is the answer. If your kid is like, listen, I would rather be in that big D1 environment, even if I don't play, because I just think that sounds fun and I'd like to do that. Okay, cool. Then the D1 might be the answer. It also could come down to other factors too, right? Like academics. It could come down to distance from home. It could come down to weather. It could come down to how much you like the coaches. There's a lot of factors there for it to just say it's always going to be this way or it's always going to be that way. It's going to depend on the family and it's going to depend on a number of different factors. I met a lot of kids who turned down D1 offers because they found a D3 school that was a much better fit for what they're looking for. And there's one family that I'm thinking of in particular when they were trying to decide, what they realized was the only reason that they were choosing the D1 was because of the scholarship money. They got a little bit more money from the D1 than the D3. But the family, when I asked them, I said, hey, do you have a problem spending the money? Are you tight on money? They're like, no, we're not tight on money. And money was not the factor. And so they ended up choosing the D3 school because it was a better fit for their kid. By the way, their kid was super high academic. But yeah, that's a thing. Gotcha. Thank you. You're welcome. You are welcome. Thanks for being here. Can I start to proceed for a scholarship now at 14 years old soccer? You're probably a little young, but as you get into freshman year, yeah, go for it. Bill, good to see you, sir. Thanks for hosting and for taking questions. Appreciate the content. You got it. It's great to see you. Thanks for coming. There were camp invites in the past from these schools, but financially we couldn't attend. Yeah. But if they're continuing to communicate with you outside of a camp invite, then they might still be interested, right? Just because you can't go to a camp doesn't mean a school is automatically not interested anymore. If they don't think the kid is good enough, then yeah, they only want them to go to the camp to finance the program. But there have been plenty of cases where, sometimes we'll even ask coaches and be very transparent with them, like if they're actually recruiting us. And the funny thing is that like we've had coaches respond and say, yeah, you know what? You don't have to come to the camp. Don't worry about it. We don't really care. We just want to see you play, So just because you got a camp invite and you couldn't make it doesn't mean that they're not interested anymore. How to progress a relationship when coaches send short replies. The length of the coach's reply should not hinder your ability to continue the conversation. Follow-ups are all about varying evidence. You need different types of evidence. You need a lot of evidence over a long period of time. That's really what follow-ups are about. It really doesn't matter how long or short a coach's response is. That's irrelevant when progressing the relationship. The relationship should be mostly driven by you. And I think this is a common misconception. A lot of people think that relationships are driven by the college coach. That's a huge mistake. You're going to miss out on a lot of interest and a lot of offers if you do that. Faux show. What should I be doing through my years in high school, 8th grader trying to play college football? For now, enjoy the game, get better, get bigger, faster, stronger, get more skilled. There will be plenty of time for everything else. Thank you. You're welcome. Do Ivy schools find ways to help athletes financially other than through financial aid? Love all your content. Thanks, Shannon. I appreciate you. Yes, Ivy Leagues do, but not always. So we've had lots of players get recruited through Ivies. One of the most common like demographics of families that we work with are high academic families. And a lot of those families want to use sports as a vehicle to get into highly competitive academic schools, which is awesome. That's a great thing to do. That's what I did. And so, yeah, that's a great thing to do. And so that's a common, that's a common demographic that we work with. And so we see this quite a bit. And I would say some Ivies, there's no flexibility at all. And you're just going to end up paying the full thing out of pocket. Some Ivies, yeah, they'll find a way to get you some money. It just depends, right? It just depends on the school. It depends on your financial status. There's a number of things that it depends on. But we've had kids get, I mean, this isn't, I guess, an Ivy League school, but like, let's say another really strong school, like a Georgetown or something like that. We've had kids who don't necessarily need the financial aid get, 200 grand plus in scholarship money. So obviously that's not exactly an Ivy League school, Shannon. But just to give you an idea, it's not always based on that. I'm a sophomore thinking of playing in college. Not started anything yet. I'm in second semester. I play for a club. I have a few clips. I don't see a question there though. Rob, good afternoon, sir. Great to see you. Thank you. I appreciate your time and knowledge. You got it. Thanks for coming. This is very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. Man, you guys are all being very nice to me today. At one point in the discussion, is it okay to ask about the amount of scholarships that they can give? When you say the amount of scholarships that they can give, are you asking, I think it's Elena, are you asking how many scholarships they're going to give to athletes or how much scholarship money they can give to your kid? Either way, those questions come toward the end of the process. If you ask that question too early on, you're probably going to get coaches who are going to bounce. So that question, there's plenty of time. There will always be time to ask that question toward the end of the process. But I usually talk about the recruiting process on a scale of like 0 to 100. 0 is where you start out. 100 is where you get a scholarship offer. And when you start, let's say you send an email, you get a positive response, right? You go from like 0 to 20, right? You don't go 0 to 80. You go 0 to 20, and then you continue to build from there with a phone call. They watch you play. You have another phone call. You send a follow-up, right? And you inch your way there. On that scale, those conversations will typically come anywhere between 80 and 100. So they come toward the end of the process. Totally fine to have those conversations. Totally fine to ask those questions. You just want to make sure you do it at the right time. Otherwise, you'll scare off college coaches. Very similar to dating. Those of you who have been around know that I use this analogy a lot because it just makes so much sense. And every parent in here understands it. And so with dating, just like, somebody might get scared off if they start talking about marriage way too early after a week or something like that. It's very similar with college coaches. And so let that come toward the second half of the process. And then it's a great time to ask it. And you can totally be direct about stuff like that. Good afternoon. Have a senior that has X and limited posts on Instagram. Was wondering if he should make more on Instagram and possibly make a YouTube. Yes, I'd make more on Instagram, possibly make a YouTube. It depends what you want to use the YouTube for. If you're using the YouTube, and people who have been around know I'm a huge fan of YouTube. We do a ton of our stuff on YouTube. And if you're like, who the heck is this guy? I run D1 Scholarship. We've generated tens of millions of dollars in scholarships just in the last couple of years. And so we do a ton of our stuff on YouTube. That said, it depends why you're using YouTube. Are you using YouTube like Twitter or Instagram where you're hoping to post on YouTube and college coaches will find you on YouTube? Less common. If you're using YouTube as your hub where college coaches on other platforms or from email or something can go to YouTube to watch your kids' videos, awesome reason to use YouTube. That's what we use it for. But, we talk a lot about, we held a social media workshop last week, and we were talking about using content and how to use content to drive college coaches and drive interest. And one of the things that we were saying is like, those are great platforms for that. Twitter, Instagram, great platforms for that. You're not really going to be able to get the same value on YouTube organically. When I say organically, meaning people who are on YouTube are seeing the content on YouTube. I'm saying use YouTube as your hub and drive outside traffic to YouTube. That's a great reason to use YouTube. In skill-based sports, are workout videos valid or just game film? Workout videos are definitely valid. There are 3 different categories of videos. You have game videos, practice videos, and workout or training videos. All three of them are valuable. Okay. And the funny thing about this is people will say, no, don't use practice video because coaches only want to see game video. It's true that college coaches prioritize game video over everything else, 100%. But one thing that those people miss is that there are some things that practice video is really good at that game video is not that good at. Oh, interesting, huh? Like, I'll give you an example. What if there's a skill that you have a really hard time getting in game, but college coaches still want to evaluate? Let's say you play baseball. Someone asked a baseball question. Let's say you play baseball and you're an outfielder. How many balls get hit to you? Maybe not that many. You might go 4 games without getting a single ball hit to you where you don't get to show a throw to a base or running down a ball in the gap or something like that. But coaches still want to evaluate you defensively. Oh, that's what practice video is really good for, because now you can go have a coach hit you fungos, right, and get that. And so there are some things that practice video is awesome at. How about this? Your kid ever play a game and you're really far away and you got your phone out taking a video and they look like an ant and you're like, that video is no good. Like, they can't see it, right? In practice, you can often get much closer. You can get higher quality video. You can get better angles. You can get different angles. That's something that practice has an advantage over game video on, which is why we say you should have all three of those. Now, when it comes to workout video, speed video, those types of things, for some sports, that stuff is critical, like really important. Football, basketball, very physical sports, the workout stuff, you can literally get recruited just off of workout stuff. Seriously. If you're like primo top, 1% in workout stuff, you might not even be that skilled in basketball or football and yet still get recruited because of that. Okay. Specifically football in that case. So you should have all three types of those videos. Yes, workout videos are awesome and you should continue or consider sending some of those. I'll be taking my daughter on a single college ID camp just to get the first time out of the way. Nice. Should I contact coaches beforehand or send video? Absolutely, Rob. Every time. Never go to an event without not contacting a coach. You should contact a coach every single time before an event. And ideally, you should be contacting them multiple times before an event. You should have conversations with them before the event. Now, it depends on the age of your daughter, right, Rob? The younger they are, that might not make sense. And I think if I remember right, your daughter's a little younger. And so regardless, even if you're still young and you can't start conversations yet, still makes a ton of sense to contact them before the event. Absolutely. TikTok live for a larger audience. I don't care about how big the audience is. I care about the quality of the audience, but thank you. How long should a highlight film be? The answer is that you should use multiple different lengths of highlight videos. So not just one. Typical recruiting advice says, hey, create like a 2 to 4 minute highlight video, send that to college coaches. You're going to miss out on a lot of interest if you do that. Let me give you an example, right? The example that I use is if I said, hey, I got this movie. Let's say that we were friends and I knew you pretty well. And I said, hey, you got to check out this movie. I think you'd really like it. I think you'd love it, if you said that, sorry, now I'm thinking about the TikTok audience guy. We're also on Twitter and YouTube right now. There's more people on there actually. Anyway, so if we were friends and I said, hey, I got this movie. I think you would love it. It's amazing. It's going to be your new favorite movie. It's 10 hours long. You excited to watch it? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like probably not. Because it's 10 hours long. My next question to you is, any of you guys ever watched a TV show from start to finish? Probably. TV show is 10 hours long. It's just broken up into 1-hour episodes, right? So all they did is took a 10-hour movie and made it easier to consume. And all of a sudden you got no problem watching that, right? You should do the same thing with your college recruiting highlight videos. A 2 to 4 minute video or even a full game video is the equivalent of a 10-hour movie. It's long. Not every coach is going to be ready to do that when they know nothing about your kid. They don't know that they're good enough, right? So instead, what happens is if you have shorter videos that are 10 to 30 seconds and you use those for coaches who are not interested yet, guess what happens? They're much more likely to watch those. They watch a few of those. They're like, this is pretty good. Now they are significantly more likely to watch your 2 to 4 minute highlight videos, your full game videos, because they know that your kid is worth it. They've already evaluated them. They've seen that. And so you shouldn't just have one length of video. We use multiple lengths of videos and we share those with coaches in different situations, depending on what we're trying to accomplish and how much dialogue we've had with that coach. I think one of the things that makes it really hard to get offers is when you pigeonhole yourself into one type of video and too few videos. That makes it very, 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 very difficult. Yeah, very difficult. Senior football player has limited video from 11th grade, plenty from his sophomore and senior year. Question is, would that be good to post on his recruiting outreach film? Just use the senior video. Yeah, that's honestly the only one that matters. You don't even need junior video. If he's already a senior, you don't even need junior video. Just use the senior video. And I would not use the sophomore video. That's 2 years old now at this point. It's just not an accurate representation of who he is as a player now. I'm guessing he's bigger, faster, and stronger now than he was 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So like, don't use the worse off version of him. Use the current version of him. If you commit early in your junior year, do other coaches typically stop following you? Are they even allowed to make offers if you've only verbally committed? If so, does it happen fairly regularly? There's a few questions here. Are they allowed to make offers? Yes. A verbal is just a verbal. There's nothing legally binding about a verbal. Okay. You can ask the question, is it morally right? That's a different question, but that's not the question asked here. The question is it legal? Sure. As long as it's just a verbal offer, that's just words. You know what I mean? Now, it's not saying it's not a real offer. If you say yes to a verbal, it's a real offer, but there's nothing legally binding there. If so, does it happen fairly regularly? Depends on the sport and depends on the division. But yes, I would say that happens a good bit. And then do other coaches typically stop following you? Sometimes, but I will tell you, sometimes it has the opposite effect. Like we had a kid, this was a couple months ago, got an offer, and we told him to post it and showed him what to do with that. And within a couple of weeks, he had like 8 new schools show interest in him and ask him how his process is going, even though he was verbally committed, and they saw it on his social media timeline, right? So sometimes it can actually have the opposite effect where it makes you even more attractive. But yeah, we see that. Thank you. You're welcome. And cool. I think that's it for the day. Awesome, guys. Thanks for being here. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy it. Get after it. Get in the gym. Take some extra reps. Send some emails. Post a little on social media. Make some highlight videos. And go get you some 6-figure scholarships. I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.